Randy McKee here with Soccer 605. I'm here with head women's coach at Northern State University, Steve Kim. Thanks, Coach, for being with us
Yeah,
today.
thanks for coming to campus. We enjoy it.
You know, we've been trying to get up here for a while, and, you know, it just is kind of a stretch for us. But, boy, since I was here last, you guys have really added some stuff here at the campus.
They have done a great job enhancing it, and not just with athletics, but if you look around, they've redone the tech center, they've done some work at the library, they've redone the student center, we've done a lot of work in the Barnett Center, we've added the weight room, we've done some new locker rooms. So it's been a pretty awesome 5-6 years, but it's all come into play now, and it really looks well.
Yeah, I'm just really impressed, and you know, like we were talking about earlier about the condition and quality of the facilities here. Like you were saying, only in South Dakota you can put a building in that can be 3 decades old but still look like a brand new one.
Yeah, it's amazing, and I think, you know, all of us get out and we get to places a lot of it, or we get to places quite often rather, but you know, we bring in kids from all over the country, and we bring in kids from these major metropolitan areas. They're always shocked to find out that this is a 30-year-old building and still looks brand new, and I think that says something about the people in South Dakota and their willingness to take care of things that don't belong to them.
You know, we were talking about, you know, some of these players, and we're going to have some on video for you folks, but, you know, I'm looking through some of the coaching stats, and it looks to me like you're the longest standing college soccer coach in the state.
Yeah, I guess that's probably true. I would think that Lang at SDSU, I guess, would just be a few years behind me, and then there's been some changes at most of the other institutions, so I guess I am the old dog.
I was reading in the Aberdeen American News a couple things that I hadn't really realized before, but and this is probably not something you're comfortable with. I've never seen anybody say this about you till then, but you're up on the list for one of the winningest coaches in the NCAA right now.
Yeah, I'm not real comfortable talking about it because I get it. I've been in games, plenty of games where we've lost, and plenty of games where we've won, but I understand that it comes down to who you have to work with, and I think that personally for me, I've always been blessed, and we've always had, in my opinion, the best kids to work with. Maybe not always the best soccer player, but always the best kids, and they've always given their best effort, and they've always done well, and I think any of those accolades are just a result of the people that you're working with. So I would pass the buck and thank all the kids that have played here since 1999.
Well, there's a lot more to every person here than just the person who kicks the ball, isn't there?
Absolutely, yeah. Great kids, and they work hard academically, and they stay out. You know, socially, they're real strong kids from good families, so it really makes my job easy.
You know, we're visiting with some of the players. I mean, we just talked to one player that came from Florida. We just met a player from California and one from Las Vegas. Where typically are you finding these players to bring in here?
Traditionally, it's been the Texas Cup and then the Defeaters Classic, which both happen over Thanksgiving weekend down in Dallas. And then we've had some kids every year. We try to get out to the President's Day Cup in Phoenix, Arizona, and we pull players from there. And then another place that we go is the Orange Classic in Orlando. And it seems like we're a long ways away, and our goal is now always to get the kids from further distance. But obviously, in those 3 areas, they can play soccer year-round. And a lot of times, we will end up getting a Minnesota or North Dakota or Wisconsin kid from those tournaments as well, because as you know, teams from Omaha and Minnesota go down there on the bigger clubs to play their matches during the wintertime. So they've been pretty fruitful. If I had to pick one that's produced the largest amount of players, it would definitely be the Texas Cup.
But despite that, and you know, you get to see a lot of good players at tournaments like that, but despite that, you still have a pretty good number of South Dakota players in your team, and not just putting on a uniform and sitting on the bench, players who are actually making an impact in the team.
Oh yeah, it's been real important to me, and you know, some years you're going to have more, some years you're going to have less, but we've really tried to put a fence up around Aberdeen and try to keep all the local talent here and then expand that slowly as we go. And last year we were able to pick up some players from Watertown and from Pierre, and we have the Aberdeen kids and we have Fargo kids, so we're real excited about that. And next year we plan to bring in a few more South Dakota kids.
Yeah, you know, and even you know, the McDonald girl from West Central High, you know, I guess she was a Dakota Alliance player, but you know, that's a small school, and you know, she's a player.
Yeah, she's a great player, and we're fortunate to get her. And we've always kind of wanted to get into that Sioux Falls area, great soccer there, but we understand there's so many choices for the kids, and there's 2 great choices right there in Sioux Falls with Augustana and USF, and there's all the surrounding areas, so that's been a tough market, but we're glad to have fished Allie out of there. She's been great.
Yeah, she's been a good one, and you know, you've had a lot of good South Dakota players, and of course that's obviously, I mean, we like them all once they cross the state line, but we like those homegrown kids too.
Absolutely.
So, what are you looking for when you're out there looking at players, whether they're from Pierre or Las Vegas or Bradenton, Florida? What are some of the characteristics you're looking for in a player that really make them appeal to your program?
I think it varies, but first and foremost for me, I'm just looking for someone that's pretty athletic, because a lot of times, the real upper echelon player at those larger tournaments is probably going to end up with some D1 offers, and it probably isn't a kid that we can attract. So we're probably looking for maybe the kid that's a bit less technical and a bit more athletic, and hoping that we can teach them. And then we're also looking for a solid student. And then when we get an opportunity to speak with them on the phone and have them visit, we're looking for someone who will fit in socially. And it hasn't always been perfect, but the chemistry of the team has always been extremely important to me. And I think this year is an example of having a team that really gets along well, and maybe they've overachieved a bit because of that, or they're playing for one another instead of themselves.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, there's nothing can be more divisive in a team than to have 4 or 5 players fighting with each other,
Right.
especially your better kids.
Right.
So, Northern Sun this year, looks like you're kind of in the middle of the pack right now. Very, very tough conference.
Yes.
You have Bemidji State coming up today. It looks to me like you're very much in each other's class. Should be a good battle.
Yeah, it should be a great game, and I'll tell you, Jim Stone and Andy Jansen, the two coaches they have over there, do a terrific job, and they run a class program and have good kids up there, and have a lot of respect for them, as I do all the coaches in the league. And for people that don't know, I've been in the league since there were 8 teams, then it went to 10, then to 12, then to 14, and then to 16. And back in the day, in the early 2000s, when there were 8 teams, there might have only been 5 or 6 soccer coaches, and there were a couple people that probably weren't real best. I don't know how to say it, but my point being now, all 16 schools have excellent coaches. All 16 schools have great facilities. All 16 schools have talented players. It's just a very tough league, and I know that it has to finish 1 through 16, but I'm telling you, 16 could beat the 1. I mean, there's going to be a difference, but there's so much parity. You can't overlook anyone, and any road win in this conference is a huge win. I mean, and any home victory is a great victory.
We've been noticing that more and more throughout the years. Even those kids who make it in these D1 programs, you could take most of the players off your team and probably slide into at least the smaller D1 programs pretty easily.
Oh, there are some terrific players in this league, and there are several players that are capable of playing at Division I. And I'm not going to name schools because I don't think it's fair, but there are schools in our league that have scrimmaged Division I schools and beaten those Division I schools, and I don't think it's fair to name those schools. But on the other hand, I'm sure there's a Division III school out there that could beat some of the teams in our league. But overall, it's a very, very tough league. And I think for the folks that don't know, there are 8 regions in the country, and the NSIC is in the central region. And that region basically goes the NSIC, the Missouri, all the way down to Oklahoma. And they ranked 10 teams, and the most recent 6 of the 10 teams were from the NSIC. So I think that says a lot. And that goes from Minnesota to Arkansas and Oklahoma, that the talent's up here.
And most of these schools I've noticed have a small core of local kids or
Yes.
state kids, but you're seeing players from all over the country, just like your school.
Absolutely.
Coming to all these
Absolutely.
different schools.
And for some of the Minnesota schools on the eastern side, they've been big on Illinois, and they've all been doing well with Wisconsin, and some of them pull from Canada. But like you said, there's been several international kids there from all over the country. It's really a melting pot.
Well, speaking of players, I know we're going to have a lot of players watching this. At least I hope we will. And one thing that we're always on players about is to have their ducks in a row, be organized, have a plan. Could you tell us right now, in the sophomores and juniors specifically, what should sophomores be doing right now to start looking toward a college career, and what should juniors start doing right now to start looking towards their career?
Okay, I think for sophomores, I think it'd be advantageous for them to, like you said, get their ducks in a row and have their stuff out there. For me personally, I don't do much recruiting with the sophomore class. I'm a firm believer that those kids will change their opinions on just about everything, and in particular a school, I think. And I could be wrong, but I think that's more of a Division I angle to get after the sophomores. For me, when you're a junior, I would just like to, have information on what club you play with, what tournaments you're going to attend, how you're doing academically, what's your interest of, academic interest, what do you want to study? Because if someone sends me a letter and they're a great player and they want to go into engineering, I'm probably not going to recruit them because we don't have an engineering program per se. At the end of the day, their education has to be more important than the soccer piece. Although we can handle most majors, I think basically where are you going to be, what do you want to study, and how are you doing academically. And then I think obviously getting registered with the Eligibility Center at the NCAA, and then getting out and taking your ACT early so you have some form of reference for the coach so they have an idea of where you'll be at that way. And I think, yeah, basically that's got to be protocol.
We, you know, almost, hearing me say this is almost like hearing coaches say hydrate, hydrate, hydrate. But, you know, my mantra to all these students is never underestimate the incredible importance of having good grades.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, and in particular with us, it's, you know, and I think everybody, it's important, but here at Northern, we have the highest guaranteed academic scholarships in the state. And the better you do academically, the more money you can receive academically, which also helps put together a more attractive package to make the institution more affordable for you as a family. So I think that it's a big piece of it, absolutely.
You know, speaking of that, I know that a lot of schools, northern state size, and state schools are constantly struggling with the amount of athletic scholarships they can give. And, you know, I know from your perspective that has to be pretty frustrating when you're out there competing against schools that have more money. But, you know, I think one thing that players always do, and I'm sure you talk to them about this, is take a look at the total cost.
Right.
Not just how much money they're going to give you to play soccer, because it's the value, it's the total cost really that matters more than how much money you get for,
right.
For an athletic scholarship.
Yeah, and I think what I tell families all the time, and this can work for me or against me, but I'll just put it out there, but I will tell a family, look, if there's a $2,000 or $3,000 difference, even if we're less expensive and you feel in your heart that the other school is better, spend the $2 or $3 grand, because you can't put a price on being happy. But I'll also tell them that if there's a school out there offering you a full ride and you could go somewhere else for $12,000 or $14,000, I think your parents reserve the right to tell you to be miserable and take that offer, because you can't, you know, you just putting a price on happiness over $2,000 or $3,000 isn't worth it. But if you can get a free education, then I think you should run with it.
Well, that makes a lot of sense. When a player decides to come here, what, you know, all the way from their summer workout after they graduate to when they show up here, what are your expectations there?
Well, I mean, obviously, we would hope that they'd come in fit, but I think the big picture for the player and the family is the anxiety that they feel in leaving home for the first time and coming to college. And I think what they can expect is, you know, a whirlwind of activities. And I think in the first 7 to 10 days, everything's happening, your head is spinning. There's not really an opportunity probably to get homesick and to wonder what's going on, because they'll report 17 days before the first day of class, and they'll come in and they'll start doing 2 and 3 days, and they'll be really busy. But I think being in a fall sport is very, very advantageous for a college student, whether it's football or cross country or volleyball or soccer, because you have an opportunity prior to school starting to get together with a group of kids that have a common interest of you. And what we do with our players is we have a returning player walk them around campus and take them over to get their books and their parking pass and show them the layout, and I think it's a great advantage. So although it's a bit scary, I think it's very advantageous to be in a fall sport.
You know, one of the things I'll never forget when I showed up as a freshman, you know, and like so many of the players you get, they're probably the best player in their team
Yes.
back home. And now they're coming here and everybody is as good as or better than they are. What are some of the things that you've seen successful players do to adapt to that competition?
I think the biggest thing is that, you know, a lot of times when you're the best players you're referred to on your club team or on your high school team or one of the better players, you may or may not have to work as hard. So I think the big thing that the freshmen who come in and make a transition is they show that they're willing to run through that 50-50 ball. They're willing to push themselves through that last sprint. They're willing to go the extra, you know, push a little bit harder on the 3-mile run. And the kids who can come in and do that immediately have success right away. And then for other kids, it's a slower transition. You know, they have to come in and, like you said, they were here in the pecking order and now they're here. Do they want to get to here? Yes, they do. But how much are they willing to work to get there? And I think some of it's genetics, some of it's gifts, you know, but I think mental toughness is what it comes down to. Can you just fight and get yourself back to the top of the pack?
Well, Coach, I know you need to get over to your team right now. I really want to thank you for this time, but not only that, but making access to all the facilities and the players today. We're really very happy with what we're seeing going on here, and want to congratulate you for a consistently great program here.
Oh, well, thank you, and thanks for coming. Really appreciate having you.